Joining us on the line right now, Joe diGenova, legal analyst, former U.S. Attorney to the District of Columbia. Good morning to you, Joe. There are a myriad topics that we need to go over, and I want to start with Hillary and her email because there's a couple things. First, there's this email where she actually says she's surprised to see another State Department employee using their private email, and she's commenting on this on her private email, and we'll let that one set aside for just a moment because there's even one more that's even more amazing than that, and that's where she is basically asking someone to send her information by stripping off the classifications and sending it to her in a non-secure manner. She was asked about it. Let's very quickly let you hear what she had to say, and I want to get your response.
You directed him to, quote, turn into non-paper with no identifying heading and send non-secure. Aren't you ordering him to violate the laws on handling classified material there?
No, not at all. And as the State Department said just this week, that did not happen, and it never would have happened because that's just not the way I treated classified information.
All right, Joe, take off.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is this is another part of the Clinton fog machine. She's gotten so used to lying about everything that she may not even believe she's lying at this point. But the point is that email is extremely important evidence because it goes to the intent. And it shows that this was a brazen, purposeful plan, a design to thwart the disclosure of information by having a private server. Everybody has to remember what this is about. This is about the server. It's not about the emails. It's about the server. The server is the vehicle by which she and her staff, which included lawyers, violated federal criminal statutes by knowingly anticipating and actually carrying out the transmittal of classified information on unencrypted networks. This is a violation of federal law. The FBI cannot turn away from it, and no matter what she says about what that email says, the bottom line is she did it through a private server. And that's it. It's the end of the ball game here. This is just a question of time. And her denial that that's not what she intended is, of course, ludicrous.
Now, Joe, of course, you made headlines last week when you came here on Mornings on the Mall and said that you anticipate Hillary will be indicted in the next 60 days. Is that the focus of it? I mean, you say it's not the emails, but clearly the content of the emails is part of the equation here, is it not?
Sure, the content is proof of intent. That email where she instructs someone to strip the classification labels from a piece of paper is a felony. That instruction, even if it wasn't done,
right,
the order to strip it is a felony. And the reason she feels so comfortable explaining it away is because she believes that no one will ever hold her accountable. She is wrong.
I wonder about that, Joe, because, look, I mean, the FBI may have a case, but it's not the FBI that has to prosecute. And we have seen this Justice Department time and time again do things to protect the interest of the Obama administration and of Democrats.
There's no doubt about it that Loretta Lynch, the current Attorney General, will be forced with an extremely difficult legal and political decision. However, she will have no choice. The compelling case which is being put together by Jim Comey, the FBI director, is going to be unassailable. They've reached critical mass on this in terms of the accumulation of evidence. There is no doubt that they are going to recommend a criminal prosecution of a number of people, including Hillary, in the entourage that set up this system and for 4 years violated federal laws concerning classified information. If this case is not brought by the Attorney General, there will be a revolt in the intelligence community and in the FBI. This is one of the clearest cases of the violation of federal criminal laws on classified information that has ever existed.
Joe diGenova, one other thing that might put pressure on the Attorney General is if there's another investigation going on in another branch of the government. And I'm sure you saw John Schindler's article at The Observer over the weekend, where he talks about an email from Sidney Blumenthal that looks like it was lifted right from an intelligence agency. It's laid out just like it, and it's got classified information about an uprising going on in Sudan. And according to Schindler's sources, people at the NSA are beating the drum about saying this has to be investigated. Are you aware of any other investigation outside of the FBI investigation?
I do know from my conversations with people in the military and elsewhere, consultants who do work with the intelligence community, that there are a number of things moving through the system concerning classified information. I don't know that any of them have gotten to the stage where they've been referred to the FBI, but there's a lot of stuff that is afoot concerning the handling of classified information, and that will drive this, because the intelligence community, once they get out of joint, will not give up.
Yeah.
You can have a war with HHS. You cannot have a war with NSA and CIA.
All right, so the Freddie Gray case, there have been some new developments there. They're going to actually go ahead and try this van driver, and there's a question about whether or not the first officer who was not convicted will have to testify.
Yeah, well, the judge in the case, Judge Barry Williams, ordered Officer Porter, who had a hung jury in his case, to testify in this upcoming trial against Goodson. And all the prosecution said was, well, we won't use anything you say during the Goodson trial, but we are going to try you a second time. That's a no-brainer. That's not immunity. The Court of Appeals has heard an appeal from Officer Porter. They were asked to rule quickly. Of course, if I'm the Court of Appeals ruling on Porter's case, I'm going to say, hey, fellas, we'll take our time. This is a very serious constitutional question. Why don't you just postpone the Goodson trial? Judge Williams said he's going to begin jury selection today, I think trying to force the prosecution to simply say that they will never prosecute Porter again, which, of course, should be their position. The case against Porter was really a piece of garbage. The case against Goodson at least has some credence to it since he was driving the van. But I expect the Court of Appeals to rule in the next several days, and if the judge forces the government to go forward and they seat a jury, jeopardy attaches when the jury is seated and sworn in, and they'll never be able to try Goodson again if they can't get Porter's testimony. So let me just say, as a matter of general policy, the conduct of this case by the Baltimore State's Attorney's Office has been a disgrace. It's some of the worst public policy decision-making by a prosecutor I've ever seen. It's all political. None of it's legal. They should all be embarrassed.
Joe diGenova is our guest, former U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. Only got a minute left, but I got to ask you about this El Chapo thing. He got arrested by Mexican authorities, but it turns out Sean Penn knew where he was, sat down for a softball interview with him in Rolling Stone, and even gave him final story approval over the article. By the way, it should be noted that El Chapo loved the story, didn't ask for anything to be changed. So that tells you something about how Sean Penn was acting in his role as a quote-unquote journalist. Did he do something wrong here, and did he break the law, which are sometimes two very different questions?
He may have broken the law. That isn't clear yet, but one thing is for sure. He and the other person, the other actress, have made themselves witnesses in any future case of El Chapo. If I were the feds, I'd slap subpoenas on them now and put them in a grand jury in the next 2 days. They are now witnesses in an ongoing... Remember, there are 5 pending federal indictments against Chapo in the United States. I'm afraid that Mr. Penn and whatever that idiot woman was that was with him are now witnesses.
All right, and very quickly, should he be extradited to the United States? I mean, apparently
my God, absolutely.
Yeah. The Mexicans can't keep him, right?
Oh,
Wait, are you talking about El Chapo or Sean Penn?
Solve your problem by sending it to somebody else.
All right.
I think we should extradite Sean Penn from California.
Yeah,
I'm for that.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that, too. All right, listen, thank you so much, Joe diGenova. Always a pleasure.